Oxygen Addict Triathlon podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, precisionhydration.com. Electrolytes in different strengths that match how you sweat. You can get 15% off your first order with the code OxygenAddict15. We're also brought to you by Thriver.co, the simple finger prick blood test you can do at home to track hormone, vitamin and mineral levels in your body. 10% off all subscriptions with the code OxygenAddict10. All right, everybody, I hope you're all well. I hope you're having a good week. I have got a cracking interview for you this week. This week, we've got an interview with a young gentleman called Matt Hauser. Now, I had Matt on the podcast a couple of years ago now. Some of you will remember the interview. He had a horrific bike accident where someone opened a car door on him and pretty much wrecked his season just after he'd won a gold medal in the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games in 2018 in the mixed relay. Super talented kid. He's still I think he's only 21 or 22 still. So he won a gold medal in the mixed relay there. He had the fastest run leg, and he was also a world junior champion in 2017. So really talented. In 2019, he won a couple of World Cups. In 2020, he was 8th in Mooloolaba, and we have a great conversation. He's one of these kids who I left the conversation, hung up the Skype call, jumped straight into my kit and went out training because I was so inspired by the way he'd been talking about his passion for training. So I really think you're going to enjoy it, and I hope it has the same effect on you that it had on me. Really fires you up to go out and do a bit of training. Yeah, really, really nice little dude. So listen, let's talk about what's been going on. In terms of like triathlon stuff at the moment, there's not a huge amount of results to talk about, is there? So I don't think that certainly doesn't feel right to me to sit here and talk about results of Zwift races and the results of Ironman VR type stuff that's going on. But what I will say is I personally have discovered the joys of racing on Zwift these last couple of weeks. For what are we now? I think we're entering week 13 of my team's lockdown training plan. And you'll remember for the first 8 weeks or so, I was really, really hesitant. I was really against people doing high intensity work. I was really concerned about people potentially putting themselves in danger of weakening their immune systems and being at risk of catching this virus. And those stresses have eased over time, and I'm now quite comfortable with both my athletes and myself doing a couple of harder, higher intensity sessions each week. And I feel like it's brought some normality back, and I've realized that probably the stress relief that comes with that normality of training and the normality of the more normal training routine has been massively, massively positive. Obviously, I can't swim at the moment, but getting to bike and run and do some harder work on the bike has been really positive for my mental health, certainly for a lot of the athletes I coach. And we've gradually introduced over time a little bit higher intensity on our Tuesday interval sessions. So remember, you can jump on with us actually on our OxygenAddict Triathlon podcast Power Hour ride. That's 7:15 on Tuesdays UK time on Zwift. You can just search it on the list of events on the right-hand side. Anyone can come to that. And that's going to be an hour of structured interval training. Everyone sticks together as a big group. Everyone works hard. Everyone, I don't know whether you want to call it suffers the same or enjoys it the same, but it's a great thing to do. Within the team, we've also introduced a weekly time trial as well. We've been doing the sort of 10-mile time trial that there is on Zwift, and I missed it last week. So I jumped into a proper Zwift race this weekend for the first time in possibly ever, actually. I think I did one back in the early days. But I really enjoyed it. I picked one of those races where I thought, right, okay, I'm going to be able to stick with this pack. I'm going to be relatively conservative. I picked the C race rather than the B race. And friends of mine had warned me, look, it's going to be absolutely nuts from the gun. So you've got to be willing to really go crazy. And sure enough, for like the first 5 or 6 minutes of this race, it was 110, 115% of threshold, just trying to stay with the front group. And I gave up. I thought, I can't do this. And we got onto a hill. It was on the Innsbruck course. And I was just getting dropped by what was clearly the front group forming. And I just didn't have that mental energy to really push myself over the top. And I really wish I had done, actually, because I realized for the rest of the race, it was 5 laps on the Innsbruck course. I realized that the groups come back together on the downhill. And if I just pushed that a little bit harder, I think I could have got on the back of that group. And once you're in the group, you don't have to put anywhere near the kind of power out to stay in the group that you do in that sort of first 5 to 7 minutes of the decider. I ended up in the second group, and sure enough, like, I could get away on the hill, but I got caught by the 10 guys in the pack on the downhill. So there was no getting away from them there. I couldn't break away from them on the flat. So it turned into a kind of, like, it felt relatively cruisy riding around in the pack. And I'll talk a bit more about this in terms of power numbers later. It was a full-on, like, minute and a half effort up the hill, full-on effort on the way on the downhill as we either tried to get away and break the group up or trying to get back on sometimes the group if it had splintered. But the group tended to come back together again. So the last couple of laps, I thought, right, I'm going to sit in. And I was putting out the minimum amount of power to stay out with the group. So I felt relatively comfortable. It felt like a kind of steady ride. And my brain was sort of saying, there's not really any point in doing this. You're kind of cruising along at a steady ride pace. You know you've never been a sprinter, so it's not going to come down to much in the sprint. But anyway, I gave it some 2K from the line. And I got away from the group, but I got caught with 200 yards to go. And it was a great workout. I really enjoyed it, despite the sort of that period towards the end where I was thinking, you know, part of my brain was thinking, this is a bit pointless, really, because you're not working as hard as you could do. And part of me was thinking, well, this is great. You're in a race and you're kind of conserving a bit of energy. However, when I got off the bike and looked at the power file within Training Peaks, it was an hour and 10 minutes worth of racing. And my normalized power was at 90%. So I'd done an hour and 10 minutes at 90%, which is by far the longest and hardest workout I've done for the past 12 weeks. I've done some interval training. I've done some stuff where the main set might have been 30 minutes at 90%. I've not even done any interval sessions at 100% yet. So I was definitely lacking that top end. But my reflection afterwards was to think, well, there's no way that I could have ridden for 90% of FTP normalized for an hour and 10 minutes on my own. It would have felt like utter hell. To test that out, I jumped on Zwift today, and I was doing some traditional sweet spot efforts. I was doing 10 and 15-minute intervals at 90%. And by the time 15 minutes of the interval's up, I was ready to take a good few minutes of really recovering at a low power again. So it wasn't as I've magically got super strong on the bike. I think it's the effect of the race. It's the effect of the adrenaline. It kind of gives you a bit of anesthetic for your legs, but your legs don't know that. That's the thing. I think you'll get a better result out of yourself for less perceived effort within a race situation. So if you've never tried it, just pick a race, pick a lower category to race in and just have a go and see how it feels, because it was really good fun. I was really surprised how quickly an hour and 10 minutes went by. A few more of my friends are entering races this week for the first time, and we've decided amongst us in Team OA, we're going to shake things up a bit this month. We're going to do, for our Thursday session, we're going to do either a team time trial or a race, and just get people involved and get them to take part and have a go and just see how much fun it is, because there's no two ways around it. It is a weird time at the moment, not getting out to see your mates, not getting out to train with your mates, not getting out to see your teammates or club mates a lot of the time. Just getting on Zwift and seeing some familiar faces can be something that really breaks up that monotony. So highly recommend that you give that a go and just shake your week up a little bit. As I said, I found for myself the normality of thinking, right, I'm going to structure my week in terms of training. I want to put a couple of interval sessions back in. That's been massive in terms of my mental health. It's been massive in terms of my positivity and how I'm, really looking forward to different times in the week again. And it's given me a bit of structure in a time when, a lot of the time, frankly, I'm working at home on my own, in my house on my own. So there is a little bit of lack of structure there. So if you're feeling the same, it might be something that you really benefit from. So if you haven't tried one of these before and you want to come and try one of the interval sessions, it's 7:15 on a Tuesday night, UK time on Zwift. You can search through for the OxygenAddict Triathlon Power Hour on the Zwift organised events there. Don't be shy. If you've got any questions, fire them through to help@oxygenaddict.com and we'll help you out as much as we can. But it's pretty self-explanatory, and as long as your FTP's right in Zwift, you'll stick together with the rest of the group. So that's all good. A bit of a shout out here for our sponsors. Thanks very much to Precision Hydration. If you're doing lots of training indoors, you need to take care of keeping your electrolytes balanced, especially if you're a very heavy sweater or a very salty sweater like I am. You can really suffer with calf cramps. I've been getting them the last couple of weeks. I ran out of pH last week and have just got a new delivery through. So thanks very much to the guys for that. I was getting calf cramps in the night and waking up after training. So it's been a pretty unpleasant few days for me. But if you're a person who suffers with cramps, or if you're a person who sweats a lot, you've really got to replace both the fluid and the electrolytes. So dead simple, jump on their website. You can take their online questionnaire that'll tell you or give you a really good lead as to whether you're a particularly heavy or salty sweater. And if you are, you can use the code OxygenAddict15 for 15% off your first order. The stuff's great. It comes in different strengths. I really, really rate it. It's one of my favorite products to use in terms of it being effective, but in terms of also it tastes great. It doesn't taste salty. It gives just a little bit of tang into your water as you're drinking it. So it's actually, I prefer it just to the taste of normal water when I'm training. So if you're not on it already, I think you're missing out. Get on it and get yourself onto Precision Hydration. All right, guys. Let's head over to our interview of the week with Matt Hauser. All right, Matt, welcome to the show. How are you doing today? It's nice to welcome you over all the way from sunny Australia.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, doing well, mate. Not so sunny at the moment. It's been a little bit chilly in the winter months here. I know speaking for Aussies, it's cold enough being around 10 degrees, whereas you guys, it's probably a warm summer's day. So no, we're doing okay over here in Queensland, and yeah, doing well.
Good stuff. Well, listen, let's kick off by telling people a little bit about you and your background. You were world junior champion let me get this right, was it 2017? Is that right, mate?
In Rotterdam, yeah.
Yeah, you were world junior champion in 2017. You then sort of, well, to me it was a surprise anyway, maybe it wasn't to you, but fourth place at the Gold Coast Olympic Games. You really came storming through onto the world scene with that race. So it was a pretty spectacular couple of years for you there, followed by what was a bit of an unfortunate incident after that. But let's come to that later. Let's kick off by talking about the World Championships in 2017 first up. How did you end up getting into triathlon in the first place?
Yeah, good question. I think I was a bit of a natural sportsman. I played a lot of Australian football, AFL, and loved my cricket as well. So I was into that at an early age, and that was due to my dad being into beach sprinting and other sports such as AFL as well. So, and then through school, I kind of got into some cross country and some athletics and really loved it. And then, really found a passion for triathlon a little bit later on when I got to, get a bit more diverse in my sports range and picked up a bike and some goggles, and it kind of just took me from there. I just love the variety of it and the extra challenge, I guess, on top of just running. So that's what I kind of loved about it.
So Australian rules football, then that's going to do something to mean that you don't find the hustle and bustle of transition quite as stressful as the other people around you, I'd imagine.
It's all right. Yeah. I've had a couple of concussions when in my early days of AFL. So yeah, I'm a little bit thicker skin, I think. Well, hopefully. And also in the WCS swim starts, mate. Those are brutal when we get to the first buoy. So it certainly helps with that.
I was going to say, on a serious note, do you think it helps with the kind of staying calm under pressure and staying calm as it all kicks off because those swims are really full on. The first couple of 100 meters in that first buoy, I think it's difficult for most age groupers to imagine quite what you go through around that first buoy. So is it something that helps you keep calm under pressure? Do you relish that?
Yeah, Well, funny you say about the age group, because I would think they would full well understand if they'd been to Kona and starting with the 2,000 others at the start line, and it just looks like a sea of ants, swimming along. So, I guess it does, and that probably just brings it back to keeping it within your controllables and just trying to get the best start as possible, and get some clear water at the start, and it's all about those first 10 strokes, and the dolphin kicks underwater is that's just essential, little 1%ers that can get you out in front and hopefully avoid that hustle and bustle. But then you also need to be prepared if you do get caught up in a bad start to kind of breathe, stay calm, and don't stress out too much, because that's when you get over that red zone and start freaking out. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's good to know that pros have the same experience that we do as well, that you've got to remind yourself to stay calm and not freak out. I think that's the key, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, you can get ahead of yourself. Your mind's racing, a million miles an hour, especially when you're in a fairly uncontrollable environment, such as the water, I guess. The bike you can control a little bit more, and the run even more so. So, yeah, definitely remain calm.
Nice. And then what age did you start sort of taking swimming seriously? I know over in Australia you do tons of stuff with, like, I don't know whether you'd call it little nippers anymore, but like the beach lifeguard type of stuff. I remember when I was over there backpacking, it blew my mind, just the sort of people turn up in packs on the beach, and a dad puts a boy out, and the little dudes are racing out around them and back in and out over 50 meters. So that's a tremendous amount of conditioning that goes on just when you're having fun almost, isn't it?
Yeah, that was a big part of Dad's upbringing as well. The nippers. I probably had a month or two in me, and then gave it up because I was doing 10 other sports at the same time. But yeah, it's crazy the culture, I guess, here in Australia. The nippers. You've got 12, 13-year-old kids that could probably smash me, in an ocean swim, because they've just got that skill, the duck diving waves and handling conditions like sweeps and stuff. So I grew up in Hervey Bay, which is a bay, so there's not many waves because it's protected by Fraser Island. So I had a bit more of a calmer beginning to swimming, and not as much experience in the waves. But I'm here on the Gold Coast now, and I've kind of gotten the hang of it, which is nice, especially when it comes to swells. If there's swells and races like Mooloolaba World Cup. So yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, good. So what age did you really get into triathlon then and give it a go for the first time?
Yeah, probably I would say I started like doing aquathons, maybe like 11 or 12 years old, and that was just through school sport. And then basically as soon as I got to high school and age of 13, I borrowed my first bike. It was like a giant TCR or something like that from a friend. And I looked back at a few of the photos, the other day, and it was like me just like riding like this, like very like upright and rigid, and it was just not aero at all. But I like to think I've come a long way with that. But yeah, certainly through the years and being like progressing through the Triathlon Australia pathway, it was quite a seamless kind of transition for me, I think, from normal life to being consumed by this triathlon lifestyle.
Okay, and at what point would you say you were really sort of all in triathlon? What age did that kick in for you?
I think maybe when I first won my first like national schools title. I think I was 14 years of age, and that kind of came at a bit of a shock to me, because I think I came only fifth in the States, and then went into the nationals not really expecting too much, but my bike ended up being one of the strongest legs into the headwind, and just loved it. And I think that kind of solidified in my mind that I could go somewhere in the sport, and got a full-time coach for triathlon, and then it was just all in from then on. Okay. And then I kind of had to, between that and AFL, and it was pretty easy with the injuries that I was getting from AFL, that I was suited to triathlon. So
the sport where you get less injured, that's the one to go for, isn't it?
Which is very ironic for me at the moment, it's being several bike crashes down the track.
Hey, well, at least you learn to hit the ground and roll, I guess, right?
That's it, mate. Yeah, definitely.
And what was your first experience of racing abroad?
My first experience was it was meant to be the Youth Olympic Games in Nanjing, China in 2014. I got selected, and that was meant to be my first international debut. But I broke my collarbone in another bike crash about 6 weeks before. And actually, my housemate now, Jack Van Steck, he took over the reins and competed for Triathlon Australia in place of me. So it was a bit of a drat. But then the following year, I competed in the Continental Cup in Fiji, which I actually managed to win. So that was pretty special to win my first overseas race. Nice,
cool. And then, all right, talk us through the race, the World Championships win for the World Junior Championships in 2017.
Yeah, it was a bit of a funny one. I remember the previous year, well, my first experience in the World Championship scene in juniors was in Chicago 2015, and that was made to be a duathlon due to thunderstorms and Lake Michigan just being an absolute ruckus. So we were forced to do a duathlon that year. I came fifth. Went to come back the next year in Cozumel and hopefully like build on that performance, and I got absolutely spanked. I came 45th. It was the worst performance by a group of Triathlon Australia juniors ever in the history, so I'll claim that. And then that whole year following, I think it was just a big realization that I couldn't take things for granted, and I couldn't be complacent. And obviously I had to capitalize on the talent that I had been identified as having, early on in my career, and work hard at it, and came back stronger. The next year in Rotterdam, and just I said to myself I wasn't going to let anyone else beat me that day, because I needed to come back stronger and fitter. And I had gotten confidence from winning the World Championships mixed team relay as well that year. Which was also a big thrill, and my first World Cup win in Chengdu as well earlier on that year. So I think it kind of all snowballed towards the Junior World Champs, and I knew that was where I needed to be. And I needed to be at the front of that race and really control it, which I did, like leading out of the swim. And then I knew it was a big focus to stay upright on the bike, because it was a very wet and cobbly bike. And so I managed to do that with a group of Norwegians and a few other guys, and managed to run away with it as well. And I was just like, coming from 45th to first was just like a relief, and like a big credit to all my supporters as well. So yeah, I was ecstatic for sure.
And is that what led to you getting the selection for the Commonwealth Games senior race the following year?
Possibly, yeah. I think that would have been a catalyst for sure. And also in terms of the mixed team relay, being in the Commonwealth Games as well, and being a part of that, very fortunate to be a part of that World Championship team in Hamburg. That was, definitely a catalyst to being selected. And I think, maybe like at the start of 2017, I was like, maybe like I could 40-50% chance of making it if I have a good year.
Yeah.
And the breakout year that I had just proved that, I was meant to be on the team. And just it all kind of formed together, and November I was selected in the team. So absolutely stoked.
And obviously it's a big deal when you have a major event in your own country. Did it feel like a hometown event for you, being on the Gold Coast? And were you even living there then?
Yeah, so I'd been on the Gold Coast for about maybe 3 years, 2.5, 3 years by then. It definitely felt like home, and training here with a group of 10 or 12 other athletes, coached under Dan Atkins. It was certainly feeling like a home race, and definitely the media took it that way as well. I think it was maybe a little bit of added pressure, considering that I was the home athlete for the Gold Coast Games, and which I tried not to let bother me too much, and just kind of keep my schedule as clear as possible leading in, and not trying to, a young 20-year-old go into his first major games at the Gold Coast and all the spotlights on him. It can kind of get to you a little bit. But me and my coach Dan Atkins, we tried to keep a level head and just embrace everything really as it comes. So.
Okay. And how did that race play out for you then? Because obviously finishing fourth in your first major championships as a senior is an amazing result on paper. But I never know how that is in your head. I mean, it's one thing to say I didn't want to feel any pressure, but it's another thing to actually, I mean, it wasn't long ago you were finishing 45th in the World Junior Championship. So to be in the mix for the podium at the Commonwealth Games in your hometown, that's a big jump, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly. I'd probably say it's the best fourth place I'm ever going to get, mate, to be honest. You never want to miss a podium by 2 seconds. I think it was to Mark Austin.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a crazy race, really. I think it all just fell into place from the swim. I got a really good start as normal, and I thought I definitely need to be up the front, because Ali's just going to tow Johnny around this course and just make it hell for everyone else. I knew that Ali wasn't running as well as he could have been, and probably wasn't shooting for a medal either. So I think I knew he was going to destroy himself on that bike to kind of give Johnny the best chance possible, which he did, and thankful for it as well, because he towed me along with him as well. So, and we ended up having a 25, 30-second gap into T2, which proved to be the winning margin, the winning kind of factor for Henry Schoeman. And I was able to finish off strongly in the run, the second lap, and get that fourth place. But it was definitely it was hard going on the bike. I remember that was probably one of the hardest bikes I've ever had to do. Ali and Johnny were just smacking it. I don't think Taylor Reid was doing too much, but he had no reason to. And then Mark was doing a little bit as well. So it was crazy work. And then got to the run, and 500 meters was strong, and then just stomach cramps, and I was just like running like an old man. And seeing these guys like Jake and that fly by me, and I kind of muttered to him, "Go, mate, go on, get him," because I knew I was fading. And then it was funny that there was just like a moment where the crowd kind of just like lifted for me on that second lap and the last lap, and I was just like I was in another world, and I just did not want anyone else to pass me. And I held off Richard Murray, held off Ryan Sissons, like some of my idols growing up, and just finishing on that home straight was just pretty special for sure.
I love that. So you managed to run, I've got the times up here in front of me, you managed to run 15 minutes, almost flat, 15 minutes, 15 for your 5K, and that's after struggling for a kilometre with stomach cramps and the dreaded stitch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's some big scalps you've taken there, isn't it? When you look down the list and you see, as you say, Ryan Sissons, Richard Murray, both the Brownlee brothers are there. Massive performance in front of the home crowd. How did you feel crossing the line in fourth? Was it a case of, it sounds like you feel like you really pulled it out of the bag over the second half of the run? And
I definitely, towards the back end of that run, I was just believing in myself more and more. And I just wanted to get there as quick as possible. And it was funny. It was a bit of a chicane leading into the finish straight, and on the big screen was at the end of the chicane, and I think Mark Austin was maybe at that stage maybe 10 or 15 seconds just in front of me, and he's seen me up on the big screen as we were rounding to go into the final shoot, and he's just freaked out and seen me coming like a steam train, and he's just picked up another level. So I don't know, it was kind of a funny feeling. It was elation at first, and then it was like, damn, I've just missed like a medal at the Commonwealth. It was like at the same time being 2 seconds just in front of me. But put it into perspective. My mum and dad and my coach helped me do that, and it was like, realizing that was a really special performance, and it was pretty surreal at the finish. I went to warm down on the course, and there was like still hundreds and hundreds of spectators out there on the course still. Cheering my warm down on, and I was just like, it was a bit of like a snapshot moment, like you just say to yourself, remember this moment, because I was like going up to kids and taking photos and getting autographs and just basically thanking them for being out there and supporting, and they were still there, an hour after the race, which is I just find incredible and just so true to the Aussie spirit as well. So that was definitely a special moment that stood out for me in the games.
Yeah. What did your parents say after the race?
Well, Mum was actually volunteering at the race, so she was like front row seats and kind of got to see the whole thing. So
awesome.
Yeah, she was one of the first persons outside of the guys, that I embraced, and basically just saying very proud, and probably just as speechless as I was, and pretty crazy. Yeah.
Is your dad a triathlete? Has he ever dabbled in?
He actually is, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll claim that I got him into it. He did a bit of swimming, like with the swim squad. And then when I started to get into some triathlons, he got himself a bike and started doing a few of the local like monthly triathlons we had in the Harvey Bay Triathlon Club. So it was pretty cool to kind of go along those first steps of the journey with him by my side, and yeah, he's still dabbling in a bit of training today. He went to a few World Championships with me. Actually, he went to Chicago and competed as an age grouper, and also Cozumel and Rotterdam. So yeah, he's been along the journey with me all the way.
Nice. All right, so we've got the 4th place in the Commonwealth Games there, and then the next thing up is the mixed relays, and I really wanted to talk to you in detail about this, because I don't think it's quite in the world consciousness yet, these mixed relays, because it hasn't featured in an Olympics. It's obviously been in 2 sets of Commonwealth Games, and both times we've seen it at the major games, the reaction from the crowd has been, if anything, better than the reaction watching the actual Olympic distance race. And I think that's because it's so fast and furious, and there's so much going on, and the competition is so close and intense. How long after the Commonwealth Games Olympic race was the mixed relays?
We basically had a day break in between, and then
just
it was
a day.
Yeah. So yeah, which I guess it isn't too bad, because you're going from a sprint distance to a mixed team relay. If it was a Olympic distance to a mixed team relay.
Sorry, yes, it was a sprint distance race, wasn't it? My mistake. I was going to say.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a little bit easier on the body to recover from a sprint distance, and you're going into the day after the day after the day after, basically. And yeah, we basically sat down on Friday night, I think it was, and talked over some team tactics. And Jake was always going to finish off, because he does what he does in the back end, and he's proven so many times he's got the kick of a leopard in the end straight. So and then having Ash and Gillian there as well was some very strong females to finish it off.
And did you feel a lot of pressure going into that?
Yeah, I don't know. Yes and no. I think in terms of the males side, it's a funny thing. Like, I think Jake and I can kind of look back at the individual race and say that we've done our part, so to speak. We've done the very best we could, and achieved some great things in the individual race. Whereas I think Gillian and Ash felt like they needed to prove something more of themselves in the mixed team relay. So I think that wasn't so much pressure put on them, but it was pressure put on them from themselves.
Sure.
So I think in terms of that, they were probably feeling a little bit more pressure than I was. But definitely, I think being the reigning world champions the year previous in Hamburg, there was a little bit of added pressure, and we knew that the British team was going to be all the way up there with us. So, yeah.
Good battle.
Yeah, good battle. It was funny. Gillian had a cracker of a first leg to stay with. I think it was Vicky Holland that led off for England. And then I was kind of like warming up and doing some arm exercises before the swim, and Johnny comes over to me and says, "We'll just ride this one together, hey Matt. We'll take this one out together." And I said, yeah, too easy, mate. We'll just roll turns out there. So what we did. I think he jumped into the water about 10 seconds in front of me, and then I came up to him on the swim, and then we kind of worked together on the bike as well as possible to really consolidate a gap, because we knew that you can't really win the race from the second leg, but you can certainly lose it. So we certainly tried to solidify a good gap. And then, Ash did what she did, and gave her off a considerable margin to Jake, and then Jake finished it off. So, but yeah, it was pretty cool saying, Johnny Brownlee coming up to me and saying, let's work together, Matt, on this MTR leg. So,
well, when you look back on that, this is an interesting one, because the Brownlees are renowned for not just being physically very, very talented, but also kind of the master of psychology of these races. And I'm wondering whether, if Johnny's come up to you and said, we'll ride this one together, I'm wondering whether there's an ulterior motive there.
Yeah, well, if Ali said that to me, there would definitely be an ulterior motive. I think Johnny's too nice to play mind games like that, mate. Unless Ali told Johnny to say that, but which I don't think he did. But yeah, I don't think there was nothing much more we could do. I think Johnny knew I was a strong swimmer, and I can hold his feet, and it's quite hard to attack away from on the bike. So he basically just came down. He was happy with leaving it down to the run, and we tagged basically at the same time. So,
Okay.
It was pretty cool though.
Very cool. Yeah. I'd imagine running side by side with one of the Brownlees in a championship event is a pretty peak experience.
Definitely. Yeah. I still don't think those, even I don't think Johnny was, at his peak going into the games. He had a couple of injuries leading up and a bit of a form slump as well. So, but I mean, it's good to see him back at his best, at the latter end of last season as well. So, yeah. And with the respect to that, I think he could have bbeen better.
Yeah, that's very humble of you to say. I think he might have been glad to stay with you by the sound of things.
Yeah. I was just glad to be along for the ride, mate.
How fast are you guys running? So let's get this right. 300 meters, about 8K, and about 2K. Is that I don't know if there is a standard distance. It seems to be
about a mile, maybe. I think, and to finish off, about a mile.
It's about a mile, is it? Okay. And how fast are you guys covering the mile at the end of this?
I wouldn't know what to say, but I would say maybe like 250s, 255s at the end of a hard bike. I would say, but yeah, you don't really think about pace. You kind of just like all out.
Yeah.
Because you just got to wring the tail out for the team, right? So yeah. But I would say a duck under 3 minute K pace.
So I'm trying to do the maths in my head. That's probably, what would that be, 4:30 a mile?
Yeah, we don't operate in miles, mate. So I wouldn't know.
I love it.
But yeah, that sounds about right.
Have you done any track running? Have you got a bit of a history of athletics and doing anything on the track as a kid?
I did a little bit, yeah. Probably up until the age of about 16 or 17. I remember my last 3K run was maybe at 16 years of age. I did an 8:32 at the state champs.
Okay.
And that was probably I hit my peak then.
Wow, that's fast.
I think I repeated it maybe. I repeated the 3K last year, and I did 8:14, which like obviously a considerable PB, but yeah, a few years down the track. So, but yeah, I certainly enjoyed track, and whenever we get a chance to do a race here in Queensland, or usually there's a few down in Victoria, like I certainly jump at the chance outside of the triathlon season.
Have you ever done a 5K? Ever done a track 5K?
I've done a solo track 5K, just with someone running me through to 2K.
Okay.
And that was maybe back in 2016, 2017. That was 14:24.
Okay. Yeah, solid.
I actually just did one last Thursday, because everyone's doing 5K road races at the moment. Christian Blumenfeld, Richard Murray at a stunner. I'm sure he talked about it.
Yeah, we were just talking about this a couple of days ago. It's just gone live today, actually, as we speak. So what are your thoughts as you're seeing these guys doing that? I think I saw last night late on Instagram that Christian had gone 13:50, was it? 51, something like that?
51. Oh, it's impressive. It's certainly Richards was a step above the rest. I might like to check his Strava file one more time just to see if it was accurate. Because I don't think the Ingebrigtsens did a road 5K, and they only ran a little bit quicker. So yeah, certainly very good. I know it doesn't mean too much in terms of triathlon, right? It's it's all about strength off the bike and responding to attacks and responding to the race. But yeah, I personally had been planning on doing one for a few months, just to have something to work towards and something to aim towards. I think I did 14:03 last Thursday on the road.
Solid.
Yeah, just solo and with a bike behind me. So yeah, it was pretty good, and it was kind of like a good confidence boost throughout this period. You don't really have too many markers to set yourself against. But yeah, it was kind of good to see a few of the guys go out and give a hit out, and yeah, good to put my name amongst them as well.
Do you get a sense is there a little bit of sort of lockdown rivalry going on with you guys? Like, you can't race each other in real life, but do you think people are starting to, he's done this, so I'll have a go? And
Yeah, definitely. I think there's some subtle flexes going on, especially in the realm of Zwift. I think a lot of people are putting down some impressive wattages, and I'm just watching all these wattages go by and just going, my oh my.
Yeah.
So yeah, the 5K road is could be the new Zwift. I don't know, the old 5K road TT.
Yeah,
It's taken over.
maybe. Hey, I'll give you a tip. I saw this on I can't remember which website, but apparently if you put one of those old school food mixers next to your laptop as you're riding on Zwift, it picks up an extra 400 watts. So you can have that flicked on for the final sprint.
I heard also setting your weight 20 kilos less gives you a few more watts as well. So
I don't know about you, man. My weight's gone the other way. I've got 20 extra kilos during lockdown. It's killing me.
oh, you don't put that on Zwift though. Yeah, mate. Don't put that on Zwift. Mate, as a guy that's weighing in at about 80 kilos at the moment, Zwift is a killer for me, especially up hills and stuff. So
yeah, it's a heartbreaker, isn't it? When you ride with guys on Zwift who you ride with in the real world, and they're 15 minutes faster than you up the Alp, and you're thinking, what's going on here?
ridiculous. I know. I'll stick to real life racing, mate. I think, yeah.
How's lockdown been for you? If you do call it that over in Australia, how's that affected sort of your society and your ability to train and things like that? What's your day-to-day experience been like?
To be honest, at the start, it wasn't too much different from the norm. I think we just had to split up as a training squad. We're normally about 10 of us, train every day, 7 days a week with each other. So basically, as I mentioned, I'm living with a training mate of mine, Jack, and we've basically just been going on rides and runs and a couple of swims. Probably should start swimming a bit more now. But yeah, just doing bits and pieces with each other, and because I think we're allowed to train with one other person. So, but in terms of everything else, I think it was a little bit more relaxed in Australia, and I think that was a lot. That's a lot to be grateful for. I know definitely in clusters of civilizations like England and Spain and Italy and the terrible things that have happened in New York as well as there's a lot to be thankful for. Being a bit more spread out here in Australia. So. And obviously the beaches remain the same as well. So it was basically just a matter of social distancing and kind of isolating yourself day to day and just getting the essentials. Yeah.
And how's it affecting you in terms of not having any concrete dates on the calendar for when you're going to get to race? And in terms of are you someone who's driven by training to do a race, or are you more driven to train just for the sake of training?
I'm definitely driven to train for a race or for something. So yeah, I guess in terms of not having any real idea or clarity on race dates, I did struggle grappling with that at the start, and obviously having the date of the Olympics in my mind, even though I hadn't been selected at that stage or haven't been selected yet. Hopefully, I will be. But. Not having the Olympics there, I think to aim for was a kind of a big blow mentally, and I took a little bit of time away from training and away from triathlon to just chill out and spend time with some family and friends. And but now I think things are starting to solidify in terms of some things mentioning some races to be held maybe in September. I know that there's talk of some Oceania races being held within Australia, just between Australia and New Zealand, around those dates. So yeah, I think that's a good kind of sign for me to start working backwards as to what gaps I need to fill in now with my training, and trying to be race ready for then. But September isn't going to be the Olympics, so I think in terms of stressing about physical shape and form, I'm pretty relaxed at the moment, and my sights firmly set on next year for the Olympics. So
yeah, okay. How? In fact, I'm going to come to that in a minute. Selection for the Olympics is obviously the big thing. How and when do the Australians make their selection? And is it a case of they're going to select people both for the Olympic distance race and for the mixed relay? Does the mixed relay team have to come from the Olympic squad? How does it all work?
Yeah, I think with the mixed team relay, there's a lot of different dynamics thrown in this time around, and I think a lot of nations, um, variant of their certain selection spots, whether they get two or three athletes. I think there's a lot of um, manipulation and some tactics to play.
Yeah.
I think in terms of Australia, we're obviously a strong medal chance for the Olympics in terms of the mixed team relay. So I think that'll be a big focus in terms of selection. And whether or not they choose one or two athletes to focus on for the individual, they'll do that. But for us, it's completely discretionary at the moment. So it'll go to a board of selectors. I'd say maybe May next year, May to June. The dates haven't been worked out yet, and they'll kind of meet and decide on based on previous performances, or if there's any races from now up until then, as to what team to select. So, but yeah, I think discretionary is probably a good move, considering there's so many elements of having both the mixed team relay and the Olympic distance triathlon in the Olympics. So, it'll be interesting to see what go with. So.
Well, it does seem like Australia is going through a real revival, a real purple patch at the moment in terms of your strength and depth on the men's side, as well as you. You've got Jake Birtwistle, Luke Willan, Aaron Royal, Ryan Bailey. Arguably, you've got sort of 5 or 6 potential medalists right there before you even bring the mixed relay into the mix as well. Who do you see as your big competition for making the squad?
Yeah, I think there's definitely like 6 guys that could definitely make the squad, and depending on selection spots, hopefully we get 3 that we basically all got a 50% chance of making the team. So, but then again, I think there's some guys like your Jakes and your Aarons who have a lot more experience, and certainly Jake, the form he's been in last year, getting a few WTS victories. He's certainly a front runner for selection. And then Aaron Royal having the experience up front and the swim bike that he does, and the experience of Rio. Same with Ryan Bailey, and Luke Willan's proven himself to be strong over the Olympic distance as well. So there's definitely a number of factors that'll go into it. But yeah, I think Jake's certainly the front runner for the team at the moment.
Okay. In terms of, we touched a little bit earlier on your pretty horrific bike crash that you had after the Commonwealth Games. So I want to ask you a little bit about that, but specifically about how you think. It seems like you've had a lot of experience of bouncing back from setbacks, with broken collarbone, with the bike crash. How do you think that has? How's that mindset helped you during this time of not really knowing when the next races are going to be coming along?
Yeah, in terms of like adversity, as you mentioned, I think I kind of relish it and, take it on board as a positive thing, because, so many things can be overthought and stressed out about that isn't in your control, right? So I think as long as you accept the position you're in, and know that it's for a greater purpose, I think that's what I've done over the years. Starting with missing out on the Youth Olympic Games to performing horribly in Mexico Cozumel World Championships, and then coming back the next year. I think it's a good thing for me to have adversity, and throughout this period is definitely some sort of adversity, because I know that counts. That counts for shutting out all thought of feelings of like comfort and complacency, which are negative things in terms of performance barriers, and wanting to get better and better and better. So I think for me to keep on challenging myself in that way, and taking adversity as a positive has been good for me so far in my career, and I'll continue to do so.
Okay, and the big bike crash that you had, talk us through exactly what happened there and what your recovery was like from that.
Yeah, so it was basically like a week after Yokohama, my first Olympic distance race on the circuit, it was basically a regulation training ride. I came down, hit by a door on the side of the road, needed to get a shoulder reconstruction, and broke my 5th metacarpal as well. So there was a couple of surgeries there, and it was about, I think, 4 to 6 months, back to normal training. And my first race back was around Singapore, when we had the Super League race there in 2019. So it was a funny one, I think. But for me, the main objective of 2018 was the Commonwealth Games, and to be able to have that ticked off and do really well at that. I think, everything else was just going to be a bonus. So I think, it wasn't, the worst timing for something like that to happen, if it was ever going to happen. So it definitely did take a lot of commitment and like coming back and rehabbing my shoulder and stuff like that. But I proved that I did that all right when I won the blue jersey in Singapore the next year. So yeah, it was just a matter of just taking a step back from the sport, I think, and just realizing that everything happens for a reason, and knowing that I had ticked off the major goal for the year.
Yeah. And how's your experience of racing Super League been then? I'd imagine with it being the super short, fast format, it really suits you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think I really thrive off the super short, sharp stuff. I almost get a bit bored in Olympic distance races because it gets a bit mundane in the bike, and I don't know, it goes for 2 hours or so. So I think the Super League stuff I really enjoy because it's racing at its purest. Often, like, I really respect Ironman and 70.3 athletes, but I think half the time it's a race within yourself for those kind of events and stuff. So for me to kind of get out there and compete at its purest form against like high quality athletes like Vincent Louis is just a machine, and Christian Blumenfeld and guys like that, and Hayden Wild, and up and comers, it's been a great journey so far, and they make it so fun as well, and it's kind of a big happy family. Outside of racing, inside of racing, you kind of want to rip each other's heads off, but outside of racing, it's one big happy family, and they make it very community felt within the Super League family. So it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it did seem like that when I went and watched out at Malta, and we went to the athlete hotel, and it felt a bit like everyone was away on a holiday where they trained and raced together for a week and a half in the sun, and then went on to the next thing. It was a real interesting environment to get an insight into.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like it's such a contrast to ITU racing where like you're all split up into individual countries, and not much banter goes on, whereas in Super League you're thrown into a big pool of athletes, and it's also normally events come towards either the front end or the back end of the season, so I think things are a bit more relaxed in terms of performance goals and stuff like that, but you still want to do your best, and you still want to get that prize money. So
yeah. Any hints yet as to when Super League races might happen? Have you heard anything on the underground?
I haven't, but even if I did hear, I couldn't tell you, mate.
I've got to ask.
But I hope soon.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Hey, something going soon.
All right, man. Listen, it's been awesome catching up with you. It's a great interview. Thanks very much for your time. One last thing to end you on. What would be the big dream for you for Tokyo when it finally comes around?
The big dream, I think, would to be a part of the team first and foremost, and get there and get there happy and healthy. And the second would be a gold medal in the mixed team relay. That would be the big dream, and a realistic one as well.
Fantastic. All right, mate. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Thanks,
mate. Thanks, Rob. Pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation. I really enjoyed that, actually. I think Matt is a really great guy. It's a shame you can't see the video of this because Matt's like a real fresh-faced Aussie, and he's always smiling and grinning and laughing as he's talking, and you got a real sense of just fun and enjoyment from chatting with him. And I've got to say, after the interview, I ended up pretty excited to just get out and do some training and go for a swim. He's kind of got an infectious enthusiasm about him, and you know what? I know I should be willing for the Brits to win, but after chatting with Matt, I really think I've got a bit of a bit of a secret wish for him and his friends to do well, I've got to say. So yeah, really enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoyed it too. As always, let us know what you think about the interviews over on Twitter and Instagram. We are at OHY Podcast over on Twitter, and on Instagram, we're Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. And yeah, that pretty much brings us to the end of today's show. I've got some discount deals and codes for you to finish with. You can use the code OxygenAddict15 at precisionhydration.com to get 15% off your first electrolyte order. You can use the code OxygenAddict10 for 10% off all home blood test subscriptions at thriver.co. Remember, you can also pick yourself up a coronavirus antibody test there as well while you're at it, if that's the kind of thing you want to check out. Over at teamoxygenaddict.com, you can sign up for a year's coaching. If you can get in by the end of May, we'll extend your coaching to the end of September 2021 if you sign up for an annual set of coaching there. So that's 2 race seasons for the price of 1. Who knows, we might be able to get you into great shape this summer, even if you don't end up getting to do any racing. I think you will. I think there'll be racing happening in September of this year. So regardless, get in, get some training, nutrition advice, heart rate variability guidance with us. We'll get you into the best shape of your life. Remember, there's links in the show notes for all of these sponsors so you don't have to remember them. And until next week, have a great, safe training and racing week. I'm Coach Rob Wilby, and you've been listening to the Oxygen Addict Triathlon Podcast. See ya.